We never ran out of meat. We always had pasta, canned goods, like tuna. Sometimes we could afford to buy fish, make hamburgers on Fridays, hot dogs, pizza, or invent a lasagna or paella. Not anymore. Now, if we're lucky, we can only afford to eat day by day. Sometimes we have a constant battle between what we have for breakfast and what we will have for dinner. For lunch, we make do with anything, but dinner is always a torture for us as a family. And for us retirees, it is truly humiliating to have to receive this bag because we would like to go to a market and choose cleaning products, razors, shampoo, deodorant, cologne.
The claps are not just a box and a bag, damn it. The claps are a living and active community, building the response against the economic war. It is love.
Given that in the communal councils, there were many people who participated because it was by election, and then people chose who they were. And some were not supporters of the government, and they demanded and asked for improvements. They changed this and created a figure they call clap, which is only for Chavistas or people loyal to the government party. And those people can't complain, they can't protest, they can't demand, but rather they conduct a census, and those who are too vocal are removed from the bag. They are even pursuing people who have not attended for several weeks. If they think people left the country, they remove them from receiving the bag. This one is broken, it comes broken. The clap box, when it was received in 2017, was actually a little better stock. It had mayonnaise, sauce, and milk. Well, even though the milk was bad, we discovered that it was expired and they still put it in the box.
For several months, we dedicated ourselves to collecting various samples of this Mexican powdered milk that arrived in clap boxes. We collected up to 14 different brands of powdered milk. Every time we had a sample, we took it to the Institute of Food Science and Technology at the Central University of Venezuela for analysis. The first thing we discovered in general was that all the nutritional labeling on these packages was false. This was a product that was extremely high in sodium, extremely high in carbohydrates. For example, this explains why mothers said that when they prepared the powdered milk, there was a kind of sediment that settled at the bottom of the preparation.
At the bottom of the glass, a lemon-colored liquid forms, and besides that, there is a sediment that resembles lime. I want you to see it. It's lime. That's lime. Here it is. You can observe it. You can see how it's not even clear what it is.
And that's precisely because it was a product very high in carbohydrates, but also being high in sodium explained why mothers said it tasted salty. Studies end up confirming that these products, this powdered milk, were very low in protein and very low in calcium, which is basically what one would expect to find in a product like powdered milk, meaning it should have calcium and protein to serve as nourishment for all children. It was confirmation for us. In addition to connecting, let's say that people usually don't see how corruption ends up affecting people's daily lives.
It's getting worse and worse because before it used to come a little more stock. It used to come with oil, but now it doesn't. What it brings now is rice, pasta, sugar, flour, and a sardine that's the basis of the clap bag in this whole area. Then, the square chief comes by and scans your PayRe ID because there's a requirement they have to check it on the PayRe platform that says you receive the benefit, and people have to be registered there. Otherwise, they take away the bag.
The deficiencies of the CLAP program from a nutritional standpoint are closely tied to what is being distributed at any given moment. If we consider how the program started, we would see a distribution of tuna, which is a bean protein, plant-derived proteins, rice, pasta, pre-cooked corn flour, oil, and some sugar. But there is a lack of fruits, vegetables, and fresh foods. It's true that they are definitely not provided for distribution. Under these circumstances, it would be very unsafe for the population. Lately, people report only receiving rice and pasta, which is completely imbalanced, insufficient, and promotes a monotonous diet based on carbohydrates. This is why the deficiencies in micronutrients in the Venezuelan population must be reaching unprecedented levels, as there is no sufficient supply of calcium, folic acid, iron, and vitamins and minerals in general coming from the distribution of these products. What would be the plan to improve nutrition in Venezuela? We could include different access routes, incorporate community self-production, and diversify the diet through local and artisanal cultivation, so that people can improve their intake of micronutrients and proteins that are necessary, not only for the adult population, but also for vulnerable populations such as children, pregnant women, and the elderly.
From Colombia, Alex Saab, legal representative of the Global Construction Fund.
Amidst the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Venezuela, two Colombian businessmen, Alex Saab and his partner Alvaro Pulido Vargas, established a corruption network with international reach through the commercialization of products for the clap boxes with the support of Nicolás Maduro's regime. They achieved this through fictitious operations and money laundering.
What we have seen recently, which connects with the recent corruption scandal we are experiencing and witnessing in PDVSA, is that now what was done, for example, was that some of these businessmen were being paid with oil. So these businessmen had to sell, I don't know, $100, $200 million worth of merchandise and bring food supplies to Venezuela. Here, in this scheme, people connected to Alex Saab, Alvaro Pulido, and that whole network continued to participate. But new entrepreneurs emerged as well. For example, there is a young Venezuelan entrepreneur named Alejandro Arroyo, who is one of the detainees in this PDVSA corruption issue. He was, for instance, one of the people who had a company dedicated to packaging, collecting all the products, packaging them, and distributing them. There is also a Colombian businessman of Lebanese origin who has also been involved in this, called Walid El-Edge. He was also receiving oil in exchange for supplying these food items. As this has evolved, it has become even more opaque because it is practically impossible to audit. I believe that is what is happening in PDVSA right now. It is practically impossible to audit. So, whether a particular businessman fulfilled their obligation, sent or delivered the merchandise, let's say, worth $100, $200, $300 million in food, and that it was duly paid with oil, becomes increasingly difficult to ascertain.
302.
In June 2020, Alex Saab was arrested by the authorities of Cape Verde. He had a red notice from Interpol issued by the United States for money laundering. In June 2021, he was extradited to the United States, where he awaits trial. Despite corruption allegations surrounding the CLAP program in Venezuela, no one has been sanctioned for these crimes. It is in countries such as Mexico, Spain, Panama, and Colombia, where the tentacles of this corruption network extend, that arrests have been made. By 2019, the U.S. Department of Treasury had sanctioned two brothers of Alex Saab, Amir and Luis Alberto Saab Moran, as well as Alvaro Pulido's son, David Enrique Rubio Gonzalez, and 16 companies controlled by these individuals. But who are currently the bosses of the food cartel in Venezuela? After almost 3 years since Alex Saab's detention in 2020, his partner Alvaro Pulido Vargas was arrested by Venezuelan authorities for his alleged involvement in a corruption scheme, which is not directly related to the clap. The United States, on the other hand, accuses him of money laundering related to a bribery scheme and offers a reward of $10 million for his capture.
Alvaro Pulido was involved, at least to my knowledge, until 2021. Even after Alex Saab's arrest, the information I have is that one of the last contracts given to them was worth almost 1 billion euros. It was signed by Beravan, which is a subsidiary of PDVSA. The contract was for the supply of food, and it was going to be paid with oil. However, the information I have, and as I mentioned, we published a report at the end of last year, shows that this business was executed poorly. It always brings me to reflect. At a time when the country was experiencing arguably its worst economic crisis, economic resources were scarce. Well, Nicolás Maduro decided to make these multi-million-dollar contracts to favor these businessmen who basically ended up profiting from the hunger of Venezuelans.
If the charges were false, where does the millionaire budget for the Colombian businessman's defense in at least 5 countries come from? Another question we should ask ourselves is, why is the Maduro regime insisting on placing the release of a foreign citizen such as Alex Saab as a key requirement to continue negotiating with the opposition in Mexico? Meanwhile, in Venezuela, 35% of the population still depends on the clap bag, which is worth between 9 and 15 bolivars depending on the region where it is purchased.
With my pension, I don't even reach $6. On top of that, I spend almost $2 on a bag of food, plus the cost of medications and transportation, which has increased the fare. The government approves the increase in bus fares and the cost of the bag of food, but they don't approve an increase in pensions or wages.
Currently, around 6.5 million people suffer from hunger in Venezuela, according to the latest report by the United Nations. The most significant harm caused by the CLAP program is evidenced in the current and future Venezuelan population, where the physical and mental aftermath of a severely nutrition-deficient feeding program is felt. The United Nations report also reveals that 4.1% of children under the age of 5 in Venezuela suffer from acute malnutrition, a condition that endangers the lives of infants and is caused by insufficient intake of energy and nutrients.
The claps are a miracle that has guaranteed food and nutrition for the Venezuelan family.
Let's do the math. According to an investigation carried out by the Venezuelan National Assembly elected in 2015, the government spent nearly $5 billion between 2016 and 2017 on the CLAP program. At the same time, the Armando Info website indicates that 2 companies controlled by Alex Saab and his partner Alvaro Pulido received contracts for around $1.5 billion between 2016 and 2018. If we add only these 2 figures, the result is $6.5 billion. But what could have been done in Venezuela with this money? At least 6 top-level hospitals. Maintaining public universities, which, by the way, were not included in the Venezuelan national budget for 2022. 6,500 schools with cutting-edge technology, or giving each Venezuelan man, woman, and child $250. This is just an estimate, as the actual amount of embezzled funds is unknown. For Nicolás Maduro, the CLAP program remains a success, as coverage has expanded to 7.5 million families as of 2022.
We started by protecting 1,900,000 families in 2016. Take note. And today we are protecting 7,500,000 families.
From the very beginning, this was actually a great business to benefit people close to power. The main player, the major beneficiary of this business, was, of course, Mr. Alex Saab and his partner Alvaro Pulido Vargas. Nicolás Maduro decided to make these multi-million-dollar contracts to favor these businessmen, who basically ended up profiting from the hunger of Venezuelans.
And it is completely imbalanced, insufficient, promotes a monotonous diet.
As we can see, for Maduro, it is a triumph that the CLAP program continues to grow. But let's pause for a moment on this. Maduro claims that 7.5 million people receive this aid. This means that there are now more Venezuelans living in poverty and hunger.